this. No, that's not the top screen. That's not opening. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. Everybody's having a great Saturday.
Hello, Chad.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for joining me, Momo, as per often.
Yeah.
So we got some interesting topics to go over today. Let me just throw them out here into chat. For those of you that are not, able to check easily at chat, on mobile or something, we're going to talk about the Brothers War mechanics, a couple of topics from Paizo, technically 3 of them, a couple of Kickstarter RPGs like The Crowned, Stoker-Verse, and a Monty Python CMRP, which is basically an RPG, but they have a funny title for it because it's Monty Python.
Yeah. And
then we got our deeper discussion topic and talking about our games of the week, of course. So, busy here. But I guess we can start off with the easy one, which is just, hey, they revealed some mechanics for this Magic set that's coming out, and they seem fine.
I saw that on Twitter and was like, I'm good. And scrolled right by it this morning.
The thing is, I took a look at it, and I just say, there's 4 mechanics. They're fine.
I assume they're basic mechanics. They're not here's super weird shit that breaks the game.
For us, I agree. They have a prototype ability, which means you can just pay a cheaper mana for a version of a card, and it's fine, smaller power and toughness.
That's alright.
Yeah, so it's sort of hey, early game I can play it, or late game I can save it. They have another artifact token, Power Stones, which the only thing they can't cast is non-artifact spells, but, activate abilities and all that shit. Another type token type. They got Unearth coming back, so those old Unearth decks got a new version of that. And then they got a meld thing, which is 2 cards. They had that in Estrad with the
that was a whole thing already.
Yeah, which that was interesting. It's you flip the 2. It's flip cards except 2 of them combined into 1.
The mechanics sound fine. They don't sound interesting to me enough to care. They seem pretty standard.
Yeah, I think that's true. It does seem interesting that they have very little in the card image gallery, but I did see that they have 3 versions of both Urza and Mishra. But they seem to each take place from a different time period. They have a version of the card of Urza and Mishra when they're apprentices. One when they're at the beginning of their ascent, and of course the ones that are at the end of the Brothers War.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll give them that.
I've been tempted to read the story, but I'm also I just want a summary of it. They have all the story things out. Just give me a summary.
I'm pretty sure time travel is gonna save the day, and then none of it's gonna matter.
I don't know.
Spoilers. That's how time travel stories work.
It's got Teferi there, and he's time traveling or something for reasons, and I don't know why.
I don't know. They Johnny got Phyrexians or something. That's literally all I know.
Yeah, and then Karn was kidnapped. I got the source summary from the Dominaria set at least. That was an easy story summary.
Yeah.
They have all the stuff out for the story already. I don't know if they're gonna do more, but they have 5 story things up on Wizards on Magic site, so you can just read that already.
Yeah, some of the stories are cool, but honestly, I just don't care about Dominaria that much. It's cool because it's the nostalgia plane, but other than that, it's cool, Phyrexians again, okay. I
think that's the thing is, I think they just misused Dominaria for their big Phyrexian storyline they want to do. And, the Brothers War thing, it's nostalgia, it's neat, it's another look at that time period. But again, I also feel it's gonna be tainted by what they're doing right now. And I think that's the thing that I'm oh, God. Because it's just
I don't know, it's I feel if they're... Because they're still off the back of the big storyline, the War of the Spark or whatever.
Yeah.
They're still off the back. I think it's too soon to do the big story. I feel some smaller planar stories, more like Kamigawa or Nuka Penna size, where it didn't really affect much, but had implications.
the thing is also, like, I feel like they want a lot of big stories, because, again, I think it's the same syndrome that, like, Marvel's been accused of, is they have the big stories to sell the comics. The comics. You know, they always had to have these big things because that drew people in. And it's the same kind of thing. You can get burned out on these, like, big event things. And I'm sorry, how many big events can you have? You had 2 villains. You've used both of them now.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely am, like, at least on the Marvel side, I'm 100% burned out on Marvel. I'm starting to get burned out on these big Magic the Gathering stories, because I don't play the game anymore. I do still partake in the lore and the story, because I like the universe. But I don't know, it's just like chill and do some small stuff. Explore some weird planes again. You know, bring back some of the weird planes like you did with Kamigawa.
There are other places to visit. I think it's just there's a lot to do. I don't know what they're going to do.
They're going to do what makes the most money, which is nostalgia.
I mean, it's the fact that, like, it sounds like Magic was hemorrhaging over the last quarter a lot. Or Hasbro in general has been hemorrhaging. And they're like, the fourth quarter is going to be better. And I'm like, will it? I don't know if your choices are really putting towards that.
It was going to happen. Again, this is... here's more business talk, Momo. It was going to happen because in 2020 and 2021, they made literally all of the money.
Yeah.
You can't sustain... that kind of growth is unstable. They're going to start losing money eventually. Yeah.
That's why they're like, we're going to have more growth. I'm like, why?
You can't... There's a finite amount of growth you can have. You can't have every dollar on the planet. It's not sustainable.
And honestly, like, they're like some businesses, like, you know, as bad as they are, like, yes, you can't have all the growth. They can get to much larger growth because of the nature of the business. I'm sorry, fucking D&D and Magic the Gathering are not going to have that kind of growth.
No, like a company like Amazon, which is, I think, one of the largest companies on the planet, they make sense to have the level of growth they're at. Their storefront. You got a card game and a math game. They're not gonna have the appeal of a storefront. They're not gonna have the appeal of a video game company either. It's just like you just time and time again you see the stories that they come. Oh, you know, this product didn't make all of the money, so you know we gotta try something else. It happens all the time. It's gonna happen with Magic. It's gonna happen with D&D.
Their $1,000 proxies are going to sell, which is the sad.
Yeah, that's gonna sell. So people are gonna buy those, even though they're fucking proxies.
Yeah.
The sticker shit's gonna sell. It's just like, whatever, man.
I think it's disenfranchising the general base, which I'm sorry that most businesses survive not on the backs of those that can spend the most money, but on the backs of the overall product selling to the most people.
Yeah,
that's how business works.
There's so much of Magic that the people are priced out of already because it's such an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Increasing those prices is going to shrink your player base even further. It's a problem that Warhammer has. It's a problem that all major games have. And now it's going to be a problem that Magic is going to face. It's going to be a problem. It's a problem that D&D has faced because the physical miniatures are so expensive. The books are so expensive. There's no cheaper option for the books.
Yeah.
Your cheaper option is a subscription service, which we've seen again where they just change it and you can't look at the old stuff.
Well, the question is how, like Warhammer, I feel like they're doing a good job of diversifying and finding ways to grow their business that feels like they're not skimping out on the backs of their
Warhammer
player base.
Is fine because Warhammer has a supported proxy rule.
Okay.
Where you can get third-party 3D printed miniatures, and you just have to say, they're this unit, I'm using these as this unit for that rule, and that's acceptable and fine in tournament.
See,
because Games Workshop understands their mainline products are fucking expensive as hell.
I think that's so interesting that like that's something I didn't know about, that Warhammer had a proxy rule, and
Yeah, they have a proxy rule.
that's also the thing is like certainly I think proxies have always been a dirty word in Magic, but like honestly now with this
You kind of need them.
expensive proxy thing,
I don't know if Wizards is ever gonna like embrace it because they haven't in the past. They're kind of against it, although they're selling $1,000 proxies.
yeah. Well, I think the reason they don't want to do it is because they want their money now. It's like
yeah, they want all of the money.
There are things that I've learned with the Magic history over the past couple of weeks that have been very interesting. Like I didn't know that it was like it's one of those things. I didn't know it's because Chronicles they oversaturated the market with it. That's why there's like a reserve list. And that's why they don't do a lot of reprints and like at all, because they basically kind of themselves by like we didn't have a lot of this product, so instead we're going to sell all of the product rather than just a reasonable amount more.
Yeah, they did too many prints. And it's kind of led to the problem we have today where there's not enough and cards get super expensive.
Well, like, I've heard some people talk like certainly like you know, on Twitter and on a couple of videos from people, like, you know, there are things like, hey, you know, there's certain cards which probably should be banned in most formats, like the fetch lands. And then on the other hand, things that are on the reserve list that should be removed, like the dual lands, because there's better options than the dual lands now. Why are they still there? Just reprint them.
Like 100% honest. A lot of balance in Magic has kind of been pushed away. And I don't know how early it started, but specifically the one that comes to mind for me is in Kamigawa, Wandering Emperor. You can summon her and do all of her abilities on one turn because she has Flash.
Yeah,
she is a disgusting card. She's a very expensive card now because she's amazingly strong. But that's the problem. She's like, in my opinion, I think is one of the strongest planeswalkers.
It's the thing that there's a lot of stuff that, like, you know, they get bans in various formats and changes in various formats, and, you know, I always feel like the regulation is not well done, because also, like, it's the thing that, like, Magic doesn't acknowledge a secondary market, but is beholden to the secondary market, which is the worst I think you could be.
Yeah.
Like, most other collectible card games, when it comes to their secondary market, they're like, yeah, we have it, okay, cool. You know?
Yeah.
Like, fucking Pokemon.
Oh yeah, Pokemon has like one of the most expensive secondary markets.
I didn't know they reprinted a version of the first set. More
and
recently.
they gave it updated mechanics too.
Yeah. I didn't know that until more recently, and I'm like, that just changed and apparently it affected the value of the older ones.
Yeah, it absolutely like tanked a lot of value of old cards.
But I'm like, honestly, like, it's that's that catch-22 is like, yeah, maybe I would like to sell things someday, but I'm also like, I don't know. You know? I don't know if I'd want to sell my Magic cards, you know? Will I get to that point in time where I'm so desperate I need to?
And like I've sold my old Yu-Gi-Oh cards because I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. I haven't since fucking like middle school.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. I barely know how to play Magic the Gathering anymore.
Like, I have some Pokemon cards, but like I don't know where I would sell.
That's the thing I never really got into is Pokemon cards. I know a couple of people and some streamers who are like huge into Pokemon cards over the last couple of years.
I think I was collecting them up until around the area that they went from Wizards back to the Pokemon card directly. But I went through a couple of sets. Like I had the English Jungle, Fossil, Rocket, the original set. I think that's as far as I got. I got some Japanese cards. I forget. I think I got them online. That had some Gen 2 stuff. That's how old that was. That I got Gen 2 stuff, and that's kind of where I stopped, which I thought was a neat thing. But again, like, I don't think really any of them have a lot of value anyway. Like I have a bunch of cards from the original set. They're kind of beat up, you know. I traded for stuff and things like that back in the day, and like, you know, certainly Magic cards. My Magic card collection is in various things, but it's also like I have a much bigger Magic card collection. So that's the kind of thing is like, what do you do to like think about like selling that off?
Yeah.
Can you sell that off? I don't know. And so it becomes like, does it matter there's value or not? I probably much prefer just to play the game.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I've like in my experience, because I've sold cards where it's never really worth it. You don't like a card can be worth like a bunch of money, but 9 out of 10 times you're not going to get that value for it.
Yeah.
Because it's so inconvenient to find someone to buy it for that price. It's a little easier now with all the websites.
Yeah.
But certainly back in the day, it was like incredibly difficult. Well, I don't think I'd ever like because I obviously have Kamigawa set. There's not much of value in that set aside from like the Wandering Empress, who's worth I think like $30 now. Would I ever sell them? Probably not. It's just too much of a hassle.
I think that's the thing is it's a lot of hassle for a lot of that. So it's just like why like, and I think that's why like I feel like the secondary market is not for your average player. It's for speculators.
It's for speculators and collectors.
Yeah, well, it's to make it that like collector. I'm a collector. I don't want to collect because it's too expensive.
Yeah, like I would love the idea of having because there's a streamer I watch who does this with Pokemon cards, having binders for all the different sets, filling the binders up until you have one of every set. That's cool as hell. That's so expensive. No, especially if you just need like one or two cards, and those cards are like $50 a pop.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a lot of things. I mean, so Brothers War, getting back to, we were talking about Magic for a while there.
Yeah, Magic's the whole thing. I mean, the set will probably be fine. I don't think it'll be anything special.
I guess the next time I might want to hit it up is like maybe just take a look at if there's anything interesting in the full set.
When there's a card list released.
Yeah. Maybe
like
take
a better one.
Take a look there and see if there's anything interesting. That might be the next time. Honestly.
Yeah.
All right. Paizo. I'll have a link here to the mechanics. Did I? Because I didn't throw that in the chat.
You didn't link it, no.
Now that one's not easy to find, honestly, but I'll put the link there for anybody who wants to check it out on their own, and link will be in the description for anybody that is checking this out and wants to see these things. Okay. There's a new Pathfinder Humble Bundle out this week.
Ooh.
Here you go. I mean, we mentioned this. They do it a lot. $5 tier code for 10 PDFs. $15 has 15 PDFs. $25. Where is the? And at the end of this article, there is the link to the actual thing.
Honestly, it's really good. Every Pathfinder Starfinder bundle is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Because
you just here's all the stuff you need to play the game, and you can pay like $25, right?
Mm-hmm.
You pay $45. You get a physical box for the second edition starter set. That's plus shipping. Which is cool.
Like, yeah. So like, again, like $45, you get the physical. If that doesn't really matter to you, you can just do the $25 and have
the just $25, and you get like 41 PDFs and a bunch of maps and shit.
Yeah.
Right. I'm pretty sure these maps can be used on Roll20 and stuff.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job of setting them all up and stuff like that. So
I mean, like for $25, hey, a core rulebook and game master guide is basically like $30. You're getting way more than that in this for $25 if you really want to run like Starfinder or Pathfinder.
Yep. It's got a pretty good collection of stuff to do and a lot of different things. So definitely worth checking out, I would say, if you're interested in that. And I mean, we talked about it before. If you want to get into Pathfinder or it's got some stuff that you're very interested in, hey. here's one that I thought was really interesting that is related to Pathfinder Paizo. They're doing a Kickstarter for the Coins of Absalom. Granted, like, they're doing, like, valued coins or something that have, like, images of different places in Absalom and stuff like that. This is just so, like, neat looking. Because I guess it's supposed to represent the various coins of different places, too.
Yeah.
In the game world, which is kind of...
That is pretty cool.
I
really like the Star Stones, the real one.
Yeah, I got some really... You just, like, look at them and I'm like, that's kind of
pretty.
Cool. Yeah. They're
and these are pretty good for, like, physical games as well. Because, you know, like, it's a reward you can see.
Yeah, these are taken directly from the Absalom City of Lost Omens book, so these are the coins they display in there. So if you want to check them out for yourself and stuff too, they have like copper, silver. So like I think they do show some of the images of some of the coins here, like in the thing, like the gold coin and stuff. But they have these bigger ones, value 2 ones, which are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, hey, look, man. It's just so, like, interesting of an idea, and, like, I know it's, like, this is a good thing for, like, kind of Kickstarter, I guess.
Yeah.
And different, levels give you different stuff and things like that. So, yeah. Alright, I don't know, So this is Campaign Coins, a group out of Australia that's doing them, along with Pathfinder, it seems like. So
very cool.
Yeah. So that's the Kickstarter. There's a link that on Paizo's page if you want to go read that about it, what they say about it.
Because I can immediately think of like cool ways to do this for storytelling as well. That's
true. You know, it's the thing is, like, it helps engage your players sometimes with their the quotation real world feel of it.
It's like, all right, I can already think of like a cool ass way to do one of these. Okay, like if you're running a campaign in Absalom that needs, you know, a lot of intrigue, and you know you're like spies and shit.
Yeah,
these are how you get told where you need to go to do your mission through these coins, because each of these coins has a location on them. Did I have that correct?
I'm sorry. My brain just broke for a second. So yeah, it's definitely check it out. And one more Paizo Pathfinder thing. They're showing off the Impossible Lands, which is a book that they're coming out with, which are some of the more unusual areas in Galarian. They kind of want to talk about, you know. Like, let's see here. Geb, Nex, Jalmarie, the Mana Wastes, and Alkenstar.
Yeah.
Which they've had they have 2 of them, like, I think it's Geb and Alkenstar they had in Adventure Pass, but they're like, hey...
Yeah, Geb is in an Adventure Pass, I believe.
That's the Bloodlords, and Alkenstar was in the Outlaws of Alkenstar. But this, like, you know, I guess they're diving deeper into them, you know.
And you will also, looks like you get, they're printing some of the races from these places as well.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So they're adding more cool content.
They do a pretty good job with, even with these, like, region books, because this is their 3rd region setting. They always add a little bit of, like, actual character stuff along with it that fits those areas, but then they're also like, yeah, here's this. So it's like, we're giving you a little bit of character stuff and that fits with this region, and here's all these stuff on these different regions. It's very interesting to... God. And these are very interesting and very different places on Galarian is the thing, too. Like, Geb is like an undead country. Alkenstar is like it's a place of, like, guns and cannons. Of course, like, they're mentioning they're doing the Mana Wastes, which are just like... You know, here, where storms of broken glass and poisonous fog without rise without warning. You know, God, ooh, just unpleasant places. You know, but they're also really interesting because they're like weird curses and magical places in Galarian to check out. And some of them might be, you know, they're all really fun to use as backdrops for your lands.
It's like one of the most diverse settings I think I've ever seen because it has a bit of everything.
I think they do a good job of it too. They're like, you know, and the thing is, yes, they have a bit of everything, but they also like put actual storylines as to why they're there.
Like they're like actually fleshed out locations.
Mm-hmm. It's like we have this region that's kind of this weird thing. Here's why it exists, instead of just like it's there. Which unfortunately sometimes there's other definitely role playing systems, cough D&D that sometimes are like it's there.
It's there. Here's like no information.
But can't we learn about it? No, sorry.
Sorry, it's not the Swords Ghost.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, a bunch of little Pathfinder things there. Hey, I got 3 RPGs that are up on Kickstarter that I can share.
RPGs.
Seem interesting. Let's start with the one where you're a god, the Crowned. Your characters have godhood. I mean, honestly, that's like the thing is like that's the only thing that really sold me on talking about this is like, yes, your characters have been gifted the mantle of godhood. Congratulations. It's a very open-ended system based around that, I guess. You know, and it's kind of the purview of what kind of divine seat you're at, I guess. You get aspects, which are kind of like your character class, different creeds, which are different like archetypes. There's an original setting, which you could use. Of course, you can make your own. You get like basically divine powers, so they call them wonders, customized equipment, and some things that you could fight. Because I feel like you're probably a little bit more towards more traditional, like Greek gods and stuff, probably, rather than like Christianity in their lot.
Yeah, you're fallible. Mm-hmm. You know. Like a living deity. Yeah.
So you're still the living part means you can still be killed. So you have to like fight things occasionally and stuff like too. It's an interesting idea for an RPG system.
Deck based as well. It looks like.
Yeah.
I don't see a dice system listed.
Yeah, they got the tarot cards, which are an add-on.
Which are cool. I do like. There are a couple systems that do use decks, and they're like really cool.
Yeah. So I am interested what like the exact system and stuff will be, but it sounds like at least they have something in place. So $25 gets you the PDF, the Discord server, you name the book. They're doing $70 for the printed version. Yeah, and you also get a PDF with that too. $75 will get you the tarot deck too, and this is US dollars. So
yeah,
it's again interesting concept. Definitely a little out there from some of the other games we've talked about for RPGs. Check it out if it interests you. It is funded, so it's one of those ones that I can point it out and be like, you get it now. Hey, let's talk about what we like saying at the pre-show, the Stoker-Verse. Because that's what it's called.
Yeah, I hate the name. Like, the name is real bad.
It's a guy. It was just
Stoker, yeah.
Yeah, Bram Stoker.
He's Dracula.
Stoker's just in the manuscripts of all time. The Bram Stoker. And there's is this person related to Bram Stoker, or are they just ironically also named Stoker? Because it's torn from the dark imagining of Dacre Stoker, Chris Aldry, and Clint Langley. I'm wondering if this person is actually just related to Bram Stoker. They're a Canadian author. They just ironically also named Stoker.
They might just share a name.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually on the dude's website. The estate is listed, so
Yeah.
he might.
Oh, he's the great grandnephew of Bram Stoker.
Yeah, he manages the estate. That makes sense.
Oh, okay, so he's basically, Bram Stoker's siblings to a descendant. So
Yeah.
he's. I'm
mean,
guessing
like-
Bram Stoker might not have had any direct descendants.
I have no idea.
Who knows?
I don't know anything about this guy.
But if he managed the estate, it makes sense that he's involved in this then. Cool. He's an author too. That's I guess take after like your relative or something.
I mean, like, it's cool. Classic horror monsters are fun.
It's Victorian age too.
Right, I will be 100% on this.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is like its own little system, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And these monsters are like printed in fucking everything with a generic name.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could find one of these classic movie monsters in any tabletop RPG.
Oh yeah. No, it is the thing, The question is what version, what take they have that makes it unique.
A D10 system, which I'm always a fan of.
Yeah.
I do like my D10 systems.
I don't play enough of those. Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things that it sounds like the idea is you're the normal people that are dealing with the situation. So it'd be like you're the group of people dealing with Dracula kind of thing.
I like that you're like the way it's worded is you're not Van Helsing, but you're like Van Helsing's assistant.
Yeah. And they do have a bunch of NPCs, including like things like Frankenstein's monster, Jack the Ripper, and stuff like that. Because I guess it's supposed to be
Jekyll.
Yeah. So I guess like they can be antagonist, maybe not. I like the idea that they're doing a very like a very like Victorian version of that. They're maybe not like as probably what's the word I'm looking for? As out there as things appear nowadays a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, these are the classic monsters. They're not going to be anything spicy or honestly that scary.
It might be just more down to earth, like kind of.
Yeah, they're just going to be the down to earth. This is the monster from that cool movie you saw.
Yeah.
Right? I will always give companies that do this props. They have a free quick start.
Oh, that's awesome. That's pretty good. Definitely. Pool of dice, 1 success per dice, and 5 skill dice per player. There you go. Standard D10
pretty
system.
Standard D10. I love D10 systems. I don't think it's a rule system used enough. Everyone loves D20s or the D6s.
Mm-hmm.
D10's pretty cool and fun, and I also love classic monster movies.
Yeah.
And the book is very pretty.
The book does have some interesting art to it. And it's only 14 for the PDF and all appropriate stretch goals.
Yep.
That's pretty good. And if you want a physical book of it, they're 47 there for that.
I do appreciate that they do note that your pledge does not include postage charge. Postage will be calculated after the project is done.
That's a good thing to say, definitely.
So they're making sure you don't factor in your postage with your pledge.
Yeah. Look, for such a honestly terrible name,
it's not it's because fucking like all the shit movies
yes
have their stupid verse. Fucking the monster verse that had exactly one movie.
Technically 2.
Oh yeah, technically 2. But what was the other movie in that?
It was the Dracula movie.
Right, I've never seen that movie. I've also never seen the new Mummy movie.
I saw the Dracula movie. It was fine. It wasn't great, but it was fine. I think the thing is, like, it really was only slightly connected, even less than anything else. So sort of like, if they'd stayed on that level, they might have actually made something. But like,
I mean, you've got like 2 Godzilla ones. Obviously, you have the original Japanese one, now you have the new American one, both amazing.
Yeah.
You've got the original Universal's monster, which is the first shared universe.
Yeah. People forget that
movie.
they had weird crossovers all the time.
Hey, you know, Wolfman and Frankenstein, I'm pretty sure, teamed up a lot. Apparently.
Not to throw any shade on anybody, but I did see a video about the MonsterVerse a little while ago. The Dark Universe or whatever the fuck they wanted to call it, and the Mummy movie. Turns out your movie goes and dies when you let your lead actor decide all your stuff rather than the director.
Yeah.
That is actually the issue behind it. Is that the director didn't actually direct the movie.
It could have been good, but it had no soul or fun like the Brendan Fraser movies.
Yes. Also, a person that should have been more like a second billing character became the main character because he was a big actor and wanted it.
It's like, you know,
Not
the
naming
Brendan
names.
Fraser movies are bad, but they're so much fun.
Yeah, that I agree with it. They're not like super great movies. They're kind of just there, but they're just like fun movies.
You know what you're gonna get when you're watching. You're not gonna get like an amazing story. You're gonna get Brendan Fraser being cool.
Well, it's like I'm going to say in a similar vein, side tangent though, but like something like National Treasure. It's not a great movie, but it's kind of fun, and Nicolas Cage does a good job of being like weird Nicolas Cage, the good Nicolas Cage, in it.
Yeah, like neither National Treasure movies are good, but I love both of them.
Yeah.
Maybe a National Treasure tabletop RPG.
God, it'd be so bad, but also wonderful.
Let me steal the Declaration of Independence in D&D.
But Stoker-Verse, if you want to check it, is also funded.
Yep.
Oh my fucking god, I saw how much this was funded for.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Oh my god.
People love Dracula.
No, this one. The Dracula one is just... This one I'm going to talk about now. I was clicking on it, I just saw how much it was. Dracula one's pretty good. This is Monty Python's Cocular Medieval Reenactment Program. A.K.A. It's they have role-playing game crossed out,
Oh my...
They wanted 200,000. It's a 1.5 million.
People still love Monty Python, but I mean, everyone only knows the 3 movies.
Flying Circus, like, I know a couple of skits from Flying Circus, but certainly yes, I'm far less familiar with it, other than existing.
The movie is better.
Oh, that's pretty good movies, yeah. So, yes. I mean,
I love Monty Python, like, a lot. I mean, I don't know if I don't think this is an RPG for me personally because I don't like comedy games.
Comedy games are one of those things that they're very hit and miss. So I would have to like look at the system and decide whether it be something I could do or would be fun to play in. That's the kind of thing I have to think about it, because it is a hit or miss for me. It's supposed to be a rules light one. Got guidance on adventures, some ready run quests. They mentioned spam a lot in their entire thing.
That's a running joke.
Yep.
In Monty Python, for those unaware. It's one of their like most well-known bits, the spam bit.
There's also a Madcap backgammon-based minigame called Fetches La Veche, which involves dice catapults, meeples, farm animals, and rude French people.
Sounds about right.
Fucking
Rude French.
The person takes the role of leading facilitator, referred to the head of light entertainment. God. Yes. So, look, I feel like
They have no more stretch goals. They're done.
What?
There's no more stretch goals listed. They've hit the last one about $500,000.
Yes. Okay, so it's like you're going through British history, is the entire idea of this,
Yeah.
You're a participating character, or PC. God fucking damn it. And you got some...
It's good jokes.
See, I think that's the thing is... They have good jokes in here, and that's why it's like... you're doing a good job of being what it is to be Monty Python.
Monty Python is timeless, like the 3 movies. Although the meaning of life is a little questionable nowadays.
Yeah, but you know,
the
there's
others
a
are still pretty good. It's the nature of comedy. Sometimes it ages badly.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with that one. There's merit and demerit tokens. Yeah, 25 gets you the PDF. 65 is the standard hardcover PDF and custom dice set.
Yep.
Oh.
All named.
Like for 95, you get that special hardcover if you really want it. And other bundles are above that. But God, yeah, they hit all those freaking stretch goals.
They're mega funded.
Oh, I see they've put up a few like on paper down below there, up to like 2 million. That
They might hit.
But they feel like they're kind of they're kind of almost jokey in their things down here, you know. I think they've hit some of them too. Have they? No, they're at 1.5.
They haven't hit any of them yet.
Still, 19 days to go, and at 1.5, they very easily could. Oh my god.
They could, yeah. They could have to make weird custom dice.
I always thought the dice were hideously ugly, and do they listen to me? I'll show them. Just like Mom always said I would. We'll make available for purchase a set of all white dice that come with a white crayon. It just need a catchy name, the Albatross Edition.
Yeah.
What? Oh, what? Alright, I gotta be confused later on. Okay.
I think it's a joke from one of the sketches.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Hey. I want to talk about a deeper discussion topic.
Yeah, sure.
To go along with the season, I thought something that had been on my list for a while, and I thought, well, let's come up with it. Horror in RPGs.
Horror.
Because it is a thing that I've tried here and there to do, and it is there in my games occasionally.
It's hard to do horror in a tabletop role-playing game because you don't have the same tools as a movie or a video game, right? Like, the closest you can really get is to a horror book, which honestly aren't that scary, right? A horror book isn't very spooky. Well, scary. They can be spooky.
Yeah. I think it's the thing is, horror as a genre overall is a multi-sense medium. It's something that works best with experience a lot of times.
The horror I can do well in tabletop is I can do very good body horror because I am very good at describing such things due to I've seen a lot of body horror movies, like way too many. And a lot of the horror literature I do consume is body horror because it is my preferred type of horror, personally. But something like spooky ghosts, I can't really do.
I think it's sort of like there's different levels of horror. You can't do something like a jump scare where it's shock horror.
I have seen a jump scare once in a D&D game because it's a physical game, and the DM literally did a fake jump at a player to scare him, which was hilarious on stream, but it's not really effective.
Yes. So that's why I think that's kind of one of those ones that when you're talking about horror, the shock horror, the sudden shock.
The most common form of horror we're accustomed to these days is the jump scare horror. You can't do that in a tabletop.
Which it's surprising someone to scare them,
Yeah.
You can't do that.
It's a quick visual followed by a loud noise. You can't do that really in tabletop.
Certainly, something like a stream game, I could probably do something to shock the audience. It'll have no effect on the players.
Audience. I mean, if you had like a Go XLR, you could set up spooky noises to jump scare players because that plays through Discord.
Ooh.
Right. But that requires you to have a mixer, which costs
money.
A lot of money.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that, like, you have to look at the types of horror you can physically do. And unfortunately, there's a bunch of them that are really difficult to do.
I was in a horror session recently-ish, like a year ago, where we had a side tangency Bloodborne experience is the best I can describe it. And it worked fine. Something that DM did that I thought was really cool is they set up a soundboard through a Discord bot to occasionally play certain noises as they were describing something. Because I don't know if you've played Bloodborne, but one of the common things in Bloodborne is a crying child off in the distance.
Okay.
That was a sound that was played. It's creepy, it's unsettling. That kind of stuff can add to your horror mood. Well, you have to spend a lot of time setting that up for like 1 or 2 sessions. Is it really worth it?
That's a good question.
Depends on you as a DM, I guess.
Like, certainly, you can. I think shock horror just is. It's just a kind of no, unfortunately, because it's just getting it to work and getting it to the feel you want. Like, again, if I'm streaming a game and I feel like it's appropriate to spook the audience, then that's easy. But to spook the players, because that's every type of game you're doing. But
yeah,
then,
I mean,
you were mentioning like body horror is a type of horror, and I think the other is like atmosphere horror.
Yeah, when you can describe the scene, that's when you can really do horror.
And the fortunate thing is, like, you can still do things like spooky noises or music without a Go XLR. Like, honestly, like, if I wanted to, like, if I wanted some kind of, like, background, like, noise that's looping, I could probably set up something to put into Roll20 that all my players would hear. And then I could also, like, because I wouldn't hear it, I could also play it on stream and have that same thing going on.
Roll20 jukebox.
Yeah.
So you can...
I could have the jukebox playing for all the players, and, like, you know, just, like, some...
Foundry has one as well.
You know, having something playing for all the people on off stream if I'm doing it on stream, but otherwise I can still have that spooky background music going that'll like give some mood, and then that can add to the tension of like a area where, like, you know, adding something of like maybe mystery or murder or like unusual monsters that are outside the purview of normal gameplay can help add to atmospheric horror.
I've run successful-ish horror games. Successful in my mind that everyone was like fine with it, right? Was it scary? Probably not, because it's at the end of the day you're looking at miniatures and hearing words. But you can certainly do it decently enough. I run a fair amount of Grim Hollow-esque things. Grim Hollow is a dark fairy tale horror setting. So I am well versed in that horror, fairy tale / body horror kind of game. That's the only kind of horror I can really run effectively.
You know, it's... I could probably do an okay job with kind of like a body horror thing, but I don't think I could do particularly like a super great job. I have some inklings of some stuff like that, but I don't know if I can have it be true horror is the thing, you know?
No, it's almost impossible to get true horror to actually scare your players.
Like, I gotta say, like, something like even like atmospheric, like, it's one of the reasons that I was saying, like, I particularly like a lot of old PlayStation 2 horror games, like that era, like things like the original Resident Evils.
Yeah.
They're very much more atmospheric horror. And
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, the game looks like ass.
yeah,
And the music is the music. This is a side hinge about horror. Don't think about it. Now, if you want to, this is a good experiment. Dead Space, right? That is considered one of the scariest games, or was at the time. It's if you play it without music, if you turn the music off, it isn't scary because music is your atmosphere in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Silent Hill, which has almost no music or audio when you're playing, but you are surrounded by a visual of the fog. That's where you get your horror from that, because that is the loneliness and isolation feel versus the industrial and loud spookiness of, like, more modern horror.
Yeah. And finding, latching on to, it's you have to latch on to a couple of different mediums almost, and the problem is you have to find the medium that works with what you're doing. As a game where you have to rely on your words to give your players an imagination, that can be difficult because your words don't always translate the same way for any of your players.
No. They absolutely do not. Things can get easily misunderstood or misinterpreted, and suddenly your spooky thing isn't very spooky anymore.
You can cheat with, like, visual things you find online to help. Yep. But again, like, I feel like sound effects / music are probably the best way you're going to at least come up with some kind of atmosphere to add to it.
Yeah.
It's the one medium, because in essence, a role-playing game is a audio medium.
It's an auditory experience. Sure, you are looking at a character sheet and rolling dice, but at the end of the day, you are hearing an orated story.
Yeah.
You're orating your action. That is an entirely audio-driven experience.
Yeah. So it's not like an impossible thing to do horror. I think it's just like, it's a challenge, and I feel like you have to know your limits. Like, you can't... Doing an entire horror campaign, it won't be a true horror campaign. Like,
no.
Think about this. Curse of Strahd. It's got a lot of horror elements to it. It's not a horror campaign.
Curse of Strahd is your classic movie, like your 30s horror, right?
Yeah.
Where it's all about the depressing atmosphere of Barovia. And that's fine and good until you start running Curse of Strahd, and 3 of the 5 players made joke characters. Because that's another part with running horror, is the characters matter a lot, because they're the ones driving the story, right? I've used this example before. You could either have your classic horror movie where you have all the old archetypes, or your horror game can easily turn into Scooby-Doo.
And you certainly can try to instill on your characters what kind of atmosphere you're going to have and what kind of characters they should make. But that's still, like, you're going to hope they kind of listen to you the best they can.
You have to hope they've understood you.
Yes.
Because I've certainly 100% been like, hey guys, here's what the game's about. Here's the themes. Make characters that want to do this stuff. And then 3 people didn't.
Yeah. I'm usually pretty good at least being like, I'm up for it.
You and Lightning are great at making characters that fit.
Yeah. It's the thing is, I think both of us also have a lot of GMA experience. So sort of like, I think it's that one thing that GM experience helps with is that, like, if you're trying to go for an atmosphere and you, like, say some things to your players to help with that atmosphere, to help with the characters, since they are important, they're the actors in this horror movie. You know, it's sort of like if you come to me and say, like, you know, it's going to be a pretty serious game. There's, like, maybe if you don't, like, let on all, like, the horror aspects, like, you know, it's like kind of like you're going to explore, like, a you know, like, maybe like a mansion where some bad things happened in, and I'm like,
Wow.
oh, okay. I played Resident Evil 1 remake just, you know, this last month, so it's in mind. Well, when we were talking about it, that's why I thought, like, you know, a D&D type game in a spooky mansion where the survival horror elements is, you know, it's hard to find places that are safe to button down and rest.
I will eventually run a game like, because I've thrown together the basics of a game like that.
Yeah.
When will I run it? I don't know. I've got a billion things I want to run. I gotta pick one.
I know that feeling.
I'll use the movie night D&D game we did with them, which is a silly movie, but it is a horror movie, even though it is, by today's standards, dumb and silly.
Yes.
Unfunny One and I made characters that fit that movie. There was a crazy dude with a horse, a paper boy, and
a Boy Scout.
A Boy Scout. 3 people didn't get the memo, but they were fantastic characters, but it drastically changed what that game could have been.
Well, it's sort of like, Unfunny One's character was kind of out there, but at least he was like, he was an eccentric...
He fits the archetype of the scientist in those movies.
Yes, so. He's the crazy kind of scientist that has weird ideas for, like, you know, building it. It's like, we'll build a combobulator to defeat them, you know, or something like that, you know.
He played the out there scientist, while I played the down to earth cop, which appears in every one of these goddamn movies.
You know, and I feel like, you know, Cell's character was the next closest. Like, I feel like if it had just been Cell's character, you know, that was kind of an outlier, we would have been super fine, because he was like the Boy Scout that was involved with the cops and stuff, you know. He was like, he's like a late teenager. It made sense that he could have been there and become involved, you know.
Fucking Paperboy.
Paperboy was just so...
The Paperboy drastically changed everything. Every encounter suddenly became an actual joke.
It was so hard to work with the Paperboy.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where we joined, like, the military, and they gave this 10-year-old grenades because he could throw papers. You know, that's a comedy movie, not a 30s horror movie.
Oh, God. The guy with the horse was just kind of interesting.
The horse guy was just a crazy dude with a Nazi horse.
He was crazy dude with a Nazi horse. Oh, God. You know, it taught... It's one of the reasons that I've thought about doing another one of those, but I kind of put it off because I have to figure out a way to do that a little better.
You have to, like... Session 0, this is what I need from you people.
Yes.
How do you feel?
You know, it's sort of like...
No paper boys.
Yeah. Here's the setting, here's the type of characters, the archetypes that were in the original movie, you know, that would fit very well. Do them, you know...
I have the advantage with that kind of game, if there more would happen. I have watched a lot of old black and white horror movies. I'm very well versed in old horror.
I love some of those movies. Like, I'm such a fan of the weird, stupid giant monster movies. Like,
they're like the dumbest movies, but they're always entertaining.
Like, I was introduced to a bunch of them through Mystery Science Theater, but, like, I also watched a lot of them afterwards, just on their own and stuff too. Like, I have to say, like, I love the movie Them. It's so cheesy, but just something about that movie entertains me.
But it's funny, dumb, and it's entertaining, right?
Yeah. I think it's just for me that cultifies that era of that type of movie, you know, so much, and I think that's why, like, as such, like, an old movie, it hits a nostalgia factor for, like, you know, coming to those, like, things like Mystery Science Theater or like TNT's Monster Vision, That was like the late 80s, 90s. That's a comment there, where like they'd have a lot of these classic movies, and I could go watch them late at night, stay up or something. But
you're not supposed to.
Yeah, and none of them were good or really scary.
Oh, they're all terrible. Like, here's the thing: they were scary at the time.
Yeah.
But horror has evolved so much that they look like comedy movies now. Again,
it's that kind of thing of like, if you look at the giant ants from them, they look really nice models, but you can tell they're giant models, you know?
You can tell that they're fake-ass ants.
They look really neat for like, they're like, oh, that's a pretty good giant fake-ass ant, you know?
The best way you can run the best kind of horror D&D game you can run, and this is my personal opinion, Alien, right? Characters are stuck in a location being stalked by something. It's easy to set up, effective. You don't have to do a whole lot. Gives the players an added level of anxiety. Throw in some NPCs that get got pretty quickly. And this is what the actual Alien RPG tells you to do, by the way. I was reading through the quick start, and it actually just straight up says, here are all of these NPCs, kill off as many of them as you need to.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing that's probably the easiest kind of horror to do in this, where it's sort of like, you can set the atmosphere, but at least, you kind of got like the thing stalking, you and your group, wherever they're trapped. Or
that's why that's also was like, that's a common horror setting as well. Like, you think of the best horror movies: Alien, trapped on a spaceship in the middle of space with something on the ship; The Thing, trapped in the Arctic with a monster.
Yeah.
Right. Even some of the older ones are kind of that way. Right. That's the easiest one to translate to the tabletop game.
There are some other ones that I think you could do. Maybe do a little bit of like the horror mystery, where it's sort of like you're going against like then it kind of hits over into mystery, unfortunately, a little bit. You have to like do it right.
Mystery's another thing that's hard to do.
Yeah, one thing like a kind of the monstery stalky thing is you almost come at it as if it's just like a murderer or serial killer or something, but it's really some kind of monster or something that's like so there's unusual stuff about it that leads to some kind of weird storyline. And it's kind of hard because is it mystery, is it horror? But those are a type of thing that I feel we could translate.
Those definitely easiest one. It also depends on the system you're running. Honestly, 5th edition, not great for horror because there are no baked-in mechanics for it.
Yeah.
Sure, you have Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which has some minor horror mechanics, but it never goes too deep because at the end of the day, it's 5th edition D&D. It's a combat game.
Yeah. And again, I think it's something we've said about 5th edition is your characters start out at level 1 as pretty heroic dudes.
Yeah.
So, we're dudettes, so people.
Pathfinder is a little easier because you have better fear mechanic. Well, granted, the fear mechanics can be kind of bullshit in Pathfinder, but they are better than 5th edition. There are steps to fear in Pathfinder rather than just a single condition. And you can die easier.
Oh yeah, your first level character is just a dude or dudette.
You're Farmer Jim.
Yeah, you're just a person and can die very easily. You
can trip and fall and die at level 1.
I feel like there's some other systems that could pertain well to it, like something like a low point 4th edition Shadowrun game, where you focus more on stats and skills, where you don't have a lot of equipment. Maybe like if you have magic, you have very little magic, kind of things like that, where it's like you don't have a lot of those tools to face against the horror, which helps when the character's a little bit more helpless.
One of the most effective systems I have found for horror, but unfortunately it's not one you can do online. The most effective one I found for is a system called Dread.
Yes.
Where, if you're unfamiliar, and I've talked about it before, it's a system where you do not roll dice, you don't have many stats, and your main way of doing actions is through playing Jenga.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds dumb and silly, I know, but if the tower falls, your character dies. So you have the added layer of stress from trying not to knock the tower over, because you have to pick a block for every action you do. And because of that, it adds a nice layer of stress and anxiety on top of what you're describing.
I think there's a way you could translate that into some other systems. As you're mentioning that, what I think it would be is maybe like you'd have to come up with like a pool of like maybe like almost like wild magic, except every action you take, you have to roll a die and it has a modifier to what your action is, kind of thing. You know, that it is very based on the setting you are. Like, so it's like you roll a percentile dice and, you know, what you roll can have an effect on how things are going, you know? And
what you could do is a dice pool where every time it would be difficult. You'd have to use certain kinds of dice. You would have to use effect dice, which, I mean, Roll20 doesn't really support unless you pay for it, but you can easily enough in a physical game buy them. They're cheap. Get X amount of effect. Thing happens to you, remove die every time pool is rolled.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So your chances of failure go up and up.
It's not super easy to do, but it's possible to do.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like, yeah, you're right. The general just playing Jenga is a very good way of adding some extra tension that certainly adds that level to the stakes as you feel, because you're physically playing something too. Yeah. I feel like it's hard to get those stakes even in like most role-playing games, because again, like, as much as people can get attached to their characters, very few times you can get that, especially like in something like this where you're probably not going to be playing super long. You're probably not going to have that much of an attachment that you're like really concerned.
Like, and Dread is a one-shot system. You can't really do campaigns with Dread because the characters are not complex enough to be more than one session, and the rules do recommend having at least 3 characters prepared, because statistically at least one character is going to die. Jenga gets real hard. Fun fact, when you pull out enough blocks, it's gonna fall.
Yeah. It's interesting to say that, like, horror is one of of all the genres to bring to an RPG, I feel like horror is the hardest, because even if you know what people find to be horror, to spook them and stuff like that, it's not easy to create that atmosphere. Like, comedy, certainly if you know other people you're playing with and know what makes them laugh, doing a comedy game is a little easier.
Yeah.
You know what would make them chuckle. Hey, if I know what makes people spooky or spooks some people, doesn't mean I can do it in a game.
I have legitimately, like, and I still to this day feel so bad about it. I have legitimately scared a player with a spider monster before, and I still feel so bad for doing it. I didn't know Lynn was actually, like, afraid of this kind of stuff. I should have asked people before doing it. But it actually, like, freaked Lynn out a little bit. I still feel, it was like 3 years ago, and I still feel bad about it. It wasn't supposed to be that kind of game. Game wasn't advertised as scary.
I think it's also sometimes if you do something that's a little spooky that can hit on people's fears, you don't always know people's fears, you know?
No.
It's sort of like, there are things that you can learn about people that are a lot easier. Like, we've talked about more controversial topics and stuff like that, and these are things that you can dive into, because those are things that, like, you can discuss with your players that are like a normal thing to discuss with your players. You're like, hey, What kind of things do you tolerate that are like, maybe a little controversial or maybe a little darker? What kind of themes do you mind me either exploring or not exploring? That is a thing because people are a lot more vocal about, like, what offends them, honestly. What spooks you, we don't always talk about.
And you have people who are like me, who are so saturated in the horror genre that it is hard to legitimately scare some people. When you've played or watched enough horror movies, you get accustomed to it. I'm the only thing that I could consider for me that is quote unquote scary is survival horror, but that's not really scary. That's more of a subconscious level of anxiety of resource management.
It's the atmosphere in a survivor horror hopefully does the job to combine with it's using the anxiety of resources, which is something you can put in a role-playing game. You can make it that you have to scrounge resources, combine that with some atmosphere and stuff to create a horror kind of thing. It's not really big horror. Like, I have to say, like, I played through a crap ton of Resident Evils. I got spooked once, and that was because I'd forgotten in the remake of Resident Evil, the first time you enter Dog Hall, it only makes a cracking noise as if it's going to break. And so I was like, ha-ha! And it was like, oh wait, it didn't do anything. It's sort of like that kind of like, the dog's already, because I forgot I thought it was always like the second time you entered there. So I wasn't ready for that, I hadn't played a billion years, but honestly, it got me for a second. But after that, I was like, I never went back to the hall because I'm like, I don't want those dogs. They can show up then.
Yeah, I mean, survival horror is the effective. It's a staple of horror games for a reason. It's effective at giving you a base level of anxiety that you can build off of. But you have to build off that. That can be very difficult, especially if you're not a DM who's very good at describing basically everything.
And I think it's the thing of, like, I'd say you can do low resources, but it's still, like, it depends on the kind of system you're doing.
In 5th edition, it's annoying more than anything.
It's not easy in 5th edition at all.
Having low resources in 5th edition is annoying more than anything.
Yeah.
Pathfinder's a little bit better, but still it's kind of annoying, especially with spells and shit. Because spells are such an important part of your classes in those games. If you limit those too much, those classes become useless.
Like, honestly, like, I would probably do something like, if I really wanted to do a good survival horror, I would probably take something like Shadowrun, where, hey, guess what? It's a very gun-based system.
Yeah.
You can literally just say, like, hey, no one's a mage. And you don't have a lot of money, so if anybody has cyberware, they have very little cyberware. Granted, some people could go melee, but, the most of the system is guns.
So something I've been slowly working on in the back of my mind is they released basically like the dev kit or equivalent for a tabletop RPG of 2d20 with it. I could very easily strip the Fallout system down to its bare minimum and make a survival horror game out of it.
That would probably... I think that would work, too. Yeah, that feels like one that would work.
Because it has 3 important mechanics baked in. It's a survival game. You are not very strong. And it has a targeted combat system. And targeted combat is good for simulating horror games like Dead Space or Resident Evil, because that is very much a thing in those games.
Because it becomes important where you're hitting whatever you're fighting a lot of times. The other systems that I thought you could probably get away with is something like, honestly, Bessem, because it's an open-ended shot.
Like, you can do anything in Bessem, really.
In World of Darkness, there's rules for playing humans in World of Darkness. You could just use those rules and make a bunch of humans. You're very squishy. Guess what? You could probably do a horror game with that.
Very easily, yeah. I mean, there's also just horror-specific systems. Call of Cthulhu
Yeah,
is
true.
the biggest one.
But Call of Cthulhu is one of those ones that I think is a little harder because it's like...
It's a psychological horror, which is even harder to do right. It's one of the harder systems to definitely do horror in.
Psychological horror. Oh.
As much as I don't like the system, things based on Traveler aren't bad for horror because you are so weak in there that a sneeze can kill you.
Yes, I can see that. Again, I feel like there's a couple other systems where you're very like weak and stuff, but I feel like they don't work as well because it suffers from the same problems that like Pathfinder and D&D suffer from. Fantasy systems where it's particularly fantasy is oftentimes a very heavily like melee or magic combat system. Granted, you can do bows and arrows and stuff, but the thing is, even when you're doing bows and arrows, you can default to melee, and it means that everybody's good for a fight no matter what. That's kind of... It automatically puts you on a crutch for trying to make, the survival part of the survival horror a thing.
Yep.
Since we've been saying that is probably the easiest horror for you to do.
Your easiest horror to do. Survival horror with a thing stalking you, easiest one to do.
Mm-hmm. Like, you can do just general survival horror. The thing stalking is probably the very easiest, but you could do like a Resident Evil Mansion kind of exploration.
Resident Evil Mansion.
Maybe like, you could do like a Resident Evil style, like the early ones where you're exploring a place or going through some places, and things are going on.
Like, that's incredibly easy to do.
Yeah.
Hell, even a Dead Space style game. Granted, that takes a little more work because you have to implement a limb targeting system.
Yeah.
Because that's the point of Dead Space. Body shots don't do anything unless it's Dead Space 3, which is a game I hate. Well, actually, I like the game, but for reasons because it's not a good game. Co-op made it better.
That's one of those things that people complained about the co-op in that, but it turns out it made it better.
It's the only reason I had fun in that game. It's the only reason I still like it because of those memories.
It's like, hey, I can point out that I spent a bajillion hours. Like, I actually really like Resident Evil 5 because I spent a bajillion hours playing it with Blaze. We played through like all the difficulties together online, and like Mercenaries a whole lot of time.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like
so. I think we both got platinum on PlayStation 3. We played the shit out of it.
I played Dead Space 3 like 4 times with 4 different people.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently with Umber.
Ah.
He had a lot of things to say about that game at the end.
I'm sure. Man.
Ugh.
Hey,
yeah, like
maybe next.
Resident.
Yeah. I was saying maybe. Oh, okay, go ahead. You go first.
You first.
I was just saying maybe next year I can pick up 5 and 6 and play through those.
You know what? If they're cheap enough, I'll fucking buy them. If I have the time, I'll join you for those messes with games.
We can figure it out. Maybe.
Hey, I mean, 2 years from now, like, Village might be cheap enough. It's still like $70.
On Steam, it's the normal price went down. It's only $40 on Steam.
Gold edition came out.
Mm-hmm.
Village, great game. I highly recommend it. Especially now, because the third-person mode is actually real good.
Again, it's another reason to be like, I kind of look forward to 4 remake.
Yeah.
Just saying.
But yeah, your Resident Evils and your Dead Spaces and your how am I blanking on fucking survival horror games? You know what, Chad? I'll learn you on an ancient and amazing Resident Evil clone. Deep Fear. The fucking Resident Evil, but it's underwater.
God.
That's the last Sega Saturn game ever made.
I think
it was a Saturn game. Never released in North America.
I played so many weird survival horror games back in the day.
There's so many shit Resident Evil clones.
I didn't play that many shit Resident Evil clones, because I played through a bunch of Resident Evils. I played through the Silent Hills. I played up through... No, I played through Homecoming. I played through Downpour. I did.
I played every Silent Hill game.
So I played all 6 of them that were actually games that you could play. The PSP one, by the time I got a PSP, I didn't feel like finding that one, buying it.
I've played all of them. I'll tell you, there's only like 3 good ones.
And besides, the period of time where I got the PSP, approximately like over, maybe, oh god, man, it's a long time ago now. It was a movie player. We were in flip phones back then, so I could take a something, convert it, and then on my very long trips to Temple, because I was a commuter, and that would take like 2 hours of travel, I would watch some like, you know, anime or other videos or stuff.
Yeah, I mean honestly, that's what I did with one. It was a movie player more than a gaming thing.
But what was I saying? You know, there was certainly a lot of like weird games, PS2, PS3 era, that could kind of fit for survival horror. Mixed bag of how good they are. And I think the thing is, like, you don't need to be perfect or really spooky. Maybe just be a little spooky and, you know, add a little bit of atmosphere. I think that's the thing is, like, don't look to be like, I'm the classic horror movie that truly spooks everybody. Be like, I mean, it's a little spooky.
You know, don't aim for Resident Evil 7, which is, you know, an actual horror game. Aim for, like, Resident Evil 2, which is cheesy as shit.
Yeah. Or, you know, don't aim for horror at all and play do Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, you know, just play a B movie with, you know, horror elements.
That was what I did for the Mecha movie, except it went even weirder than B movies.
It was like a C movie.
It really was. Oh. I do want to revisit that format someday, but I also have to figure out like how to revisit that format.
It was fun, and like it was a shame I was like perpetually exhausted.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is like maybe like smaller cast of characters and you know.
Honestly, just run Resident Evil. Just run Resident Evil 1. No one will notice. I
prepared a secondary movie that I think would be very interesting. I can't remember. It's like I can tell you the movie title because I mean people who would look it up they could. I was going to do Island of Terror.
I think I've seen that one.
It's a British movie. It is weird.
I think I've seen it.
Yes, you might have
seen a lot of these weird movies.
Well, look, I also can say, like, you know, you could always do, like, Day of the Triffids. I actually, like, I read the book. The book is so much better than the movie.
Yeah.
I did that. I think I did that for a school paper or something, like, get a book from the thing, and I'm like, I saw this movie. It was terrible. Why don't I read this book? Oh, God, this book is actually half decent in comparison to this.
Yeah, the book is, like, actually very decent.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm not a great player for a horror-based game, because standard horror things don't scare me that much, because I've seen a lot of horror movies, a lot of horror games, and the things that scare me the most shouldn't really be in D&D games.
Again, it's one of those.
I'll say the most terrifying, you know, movie I've ever seen is All's Quiet on the Western Front. Don't run that in D&D. Don't expose your players to the horrors of the First World War.
Yes. I mean, like, that's a different kind of... That's definitely...
That's too real.
That's a different kind of horror.
That's a tangible fear.
That's like...
A zombie's fake,
yeah,
you know?
Look, the horrors of war or the horrors of, like, some kind of horrible thing in reality that is horrible, you know, that is a type of horror you can expose people to, but, you know, that's... So those are hard because those hit way too close to home.
That's the other part of running horror game. Don't go too far.
Yeah. Just aim for silly something, or not like silly, but the less realistic is sometimes better. You know.
Yeah, like, I mean, don't eventurize it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that movie.
Look, I've tried to add at least a horror element. Like I was running a superhero game, and I tried to make basically the equivalent of like it was supposed to be like like a little bit of shock horror because it was the supervillain equivalent of a serial killer. And you know, it was pretty bad. To summarize things in the nicest way. He was known for capturing and killing 2 groups of people, hobos and children. the children would live a lot longer and in much horrible condition.
Awful.
He would eat the hobos eventually.
A little real.
Yes. So I still didn't go into super details.
Yeah.
But the idea that like he captures transients and eventually eats them after doing horrible things to them, or he captures treasons and keeps them for a while before eventually killing them. And confronted with once they defeated him, they discovered one of his victims that were still alive, and having to figure out what to do about that. This hardly psychologically damaged child that was a little much, I think.
That's why I stick to monsters.
Yeah,
monsters are fake. There's not zombies and skeletons still exist.
Well, that's sometimes that's kind of hard in like a superhero type campaign,
Well, you can easily do zombies in a superhero type campaign because, boy, I'll tell you, God, there are a lot of superhero zombie comics apparently.
There are. The problem with us is we were superhero cops, so we were often doing like kind of crime related stuff too.
Crime zombies.
Crimes that could actually
zombie mafia.
Look, we did. The thing I remember most about that game, which was the most fun, is we did have a reoccurring villain named Legion, who basically was like a bruiser type character that could also multiply himself. Nice. And we never defeated him. We always somehow yeeted him into the stratosphere, so we basically team rocketed him.
That's very effective.
I don't know why it happened like 4 times. But it was kind of funny. But it's like we wanted to like have. It's sometimes you want to have that kind of like darker tones, to mix it up, and you can do something where you're not doing a full horror campaign or horror thing, but you could have like little horror adventures or horror-based stuff too. It's just, again, there's a level of too far, as you're saying.
That's why I will always shill toward Grim Hollow, is because it does, in addition to giving you a setting, it does give you the resources to properly and safely run a horror-based game.
Hard is difficult in RPGs. I think that's the easiest way to say it.
Not easy.
Go ahead.
It ain't easy. You can certainly do it. You won't be like a movie, but
I guess it's difficult and easy. It's easy to like do something. It's hard to make it actually have any kind of emotional impact.
Yep. Very difficult.
So I mean, like, if the spooky season, if you want to do something horror for your RPGs, knock yourself out. But good luck on that one. It's one of the reasons I actually thought about doing a one-shot on Halloween, but then I was like, I'm going to find like 5th edition one-shots, and I don't want to... Horror 5th edition is just not great, and I have no idea where I'm going to find another...
Just do something. Death House. It's, the best adventure. Mimic Door, baby.
Mimic Door. Look, I'm all up for creative mimics. They're hilarious, but honestly, sometimes they're just...
some rogue levels and make them coffin.
Look, if you guys fought them, you would have been like 12 levels, so they actually would have been a threat with rogue levels. Normal mimic versus like actual player characters at that like 12th level, they get murdered.
Yeah.
By the time you're 12th level, mimics are nothing. Like normal mimics.
Yeah.
That's why I have to put 3 of them in a room with 4 coffins, and give them rogue levels.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're like hunting down like vampire-related stuff. You're like, totally, these are vampire coffins in this secret room. But really,
I should have really done that when I had a player who kept fucking opening every coffin in the goddamn game.
It's the thing of like there's technically 2 secret rooms in that area. There's one that's easy to find, that's like only like a DC 20, and one that's like a DC like 30. Which again, at 12th level, you can get DC 30.
Hell.
So it's sort of like they'll find the one.
Those character can't roll below a 30 in some skills because they fucking took feet. It took skill focus sailing.
And he's got like 2 magic, at least 1 or 2 magic items that add bonuses too.
Fucking Esmara hat.
I don't. It doesn't.
Cell never has to roll sailing.
He really doesn't.
Unless you have like a DC 40 check.
I just don't bother with them at this point when the checks come up.
Hey, you passed the check. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm like, the check didn't really matter much, but you just chose just to be like, ridiculously good at it. I'm like, more power to you, man. If you want to be really that good at it, okay.
It is also that character's only good skill.
The thing is, I don't want to be rude and be like, hey, you keep comparing yourself to Besmar. You know what gods have the ability to do? They just declare they roll a 20 all the time.
It's like, 20, fuck you, right?
If you want to, if you actually want to look at some deity rules, because they have them in existence, they do recommend just looking back at the old Deities and Demigods book from 3rd edition. They have some okay rules that give you an idea of how to run an actual god if you need to.
Yep.
They just do things.
Yeah, it's like they just can will things into existence because, I don't know, they control the universe.
Yeah, just like the entire it's not very high up in the divine rank to be like, I just have 20s all the time. Now they do say you have to still roll to see if you have a critical threat, but
Yeah.
They're nice to be like, you still have to roll to see if you actually critical on the dice roll, but you can just say it's a 20 after you roll it instead.
Yep.
But so yeah, hard. It's a thing, I hope you enjoyed the spooky season. With that, should we talk about our week in tabletop?
Yeah, weeks.
You had a character that died. Is that this week?
I died. Technically, yeah, I think so.
Sunday. Last Sunday.
I died on Sunday.
Yeah.
Granted, it was my choice to die. So I wasn't going to play that character after that session.
Well, it's sort of like it was this weird thing of like, my character's like, well, it was nice to know you for
I just met you yesterday.
8 hours, maybe. All right, you're dead. It's also like I'm a very much sort of like, why have I been drug into this?
Why am I here?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be 100% honest. You're stuck with the 2 worst characters now. You got Chaos Man, who kicked in a warehouse door and started blasting.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the worst cleric I've ever seen. He's a good boy, but he's like a ranged-based only cleric. I mean, you got Kilius, who I don't think you've met yet. He's an NPC.
He might be better than some of the stuff I've been hitting up with, apparently. Like, I not to bust on the characters, but it's sort of like, your character was the only one that had, like, a decent introduction, I feel like,
I mean, my next character is an actual character, not randomness character or a bug or a hobgoblin that's an idiot.
It's like...
This is the thing with me. Fun fact, I don't make joke characters. I've never made a joke character in my life.
It is like... the thing is, like, the highest joke I can say that I've ever made is the level of something like Badger.
Yeah.
And Badger, as much as, like, there's a lot of joke and silliness about him, hey, guess what?
He was a character.
He was an actual character.
Yeah, like, even the Christmas one-shot, I think back to that often. That everyone in there was kind of a joke character.
Mm-hmm.
Even to a degree, my character was a little jokey, but they were actually a character. And I actually gave them a backstory.
I feel like, at least the Christmas one-shot, it felt like, things were going in like a
lighthearted
way, but still weren't like completely jokish, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's... I just have to see how that goes, because I'm like, I am interested to see how this game goes. I'm sorry, Lightning,
Flesh Cave.
Flesh Cave? Was a lot.
That was your introduction.
It's like where is this game going? Flesh Cave? Oh boy.
You don't bust that out just for anyone.
No. So yeah, we explored a Flesh Cave and someone died.
I got murdered. Again, granted, it was like, apparently Lightning was not prepared for that, and it ruined some of his plans, which I find hilarious.
That happens.
I'm good at doing that, apparently.
Yeah. Did anybody have anything on Monday? I didn't.
Monday, I did not.
I had the option of joining the Traveler group and discussing more things. All it would have been is me, like, adding some of my backstory into some of the new characters, and I'm like,
Mm.
look, I know 2 of these people. If I have to introduce the other 2 in the game, I'm honestly fine with that, you know?
Yeah.
I know half the rest of the team already. And my character is, like, soft-spoken if they speak at all.
Yeah, I mean, we played Divinity too, so, you know, it was a better experience. Bucket thief.
I'm stealing less stuff.
Fucking sticky fingers.
I stole less stuff on the boat.
You did. And
I did pick up the quest item, which didn't tell me
you
it was
picked
a
up
quest.
the quest item, didn't tell you, and you just shoved it somewhere.
Well, it's because it's like I was like picking up something.
Why
I
does
didn't know their price.
it tell you it's a quest item?
Yeah, I'm like, can you tell me this is a quest item? I'm like, because like I accidentally picked up some stuff that was like, you know, not valuable, and I'm trying to be better now that we're on chapter 1 and not take everything that's nailed down. I'm like, you know, ooh, gold plate worth 75, that's valuable. You know, things like that, you know, but like, you know, these books that are worth 1, I don't need them, I can drop them off. Okay. Oh, this book is actually something we needed. You
Yep.
could have said that.
Oops.
But, Tuesday, anything?
Yeah, I had a game on Tuesday. You heard a little bit about that one.
I did hear a little bit about that one.
We're on another surprise, Shitty Planet.
Yeah.
We started on Communist Planet, went to Hyper-Capitalist Planet, now we're on Slave Planet.
Wow. Those are some,
Slave Monarchy Planet. It's terrible. I kind of hate that game. To be real honest, it's not getting better. But like the session, it's just like the only stat I fucking roll is stealth in that game. That's it. That's the only stat I ever roll, because everyone else does everything else. Because it's just better.
It's this weird thing that, like, the more I think about it, the way you've, like, said stuff about it, it is, I have, long story short, you know, I ended up watching some people play some competitive games. And, you know, sometimes when I watch people do that up on Twitch, I'm like, you know, I want to learn more about these characters. Because I'm not going to play these games, but I kind of find it interesting, some of the lore and backstory stuff of, like, some of these games that you don't get unless you actually have to find it online, you know. Or I guess they sometimes put things in the game if you're actually playing them. So I was looking up some stuff, and the one time, like, you know, I have seen it's Apex Legends. It's a shitty universe. It's the Titanfall universe. It's kind of shitty, but I'm gonna say they make those planets sound interesting. Reading the backstory and stuff, you can have shitty planets. If it's shitty planets and not interesting, there's something wrong.
The problem is they're just uninspired, because they're just like because they're random rolled planets.
Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah, they're just uninspired.
Oh.
And
Also, because the Titanfall universe is kind of interesting.
Titanfall universe is really cool.
I looked that up years and years ago before Apex came out because I was interested around Titanfall 2. I never played it, but I saw someone play Titanfall 2 back when it came out, and you know, got me interested. And then since Apex, I haven't checked on it, so I'm like, I know it's supposed to be the same universe, so yeah, that's why another reason I checked it out.
Like we like snuck into Prison City, I guess is the best way I can describe it. We're there to rescue like 2 slug people. I don't really know what's going on. No one's told me what's happening. I'm just kind of there. It's actually gotten so bad that my character got fed up and I just murdered a guard. I just stabbed him in the brain with a psychic power because I'm sick of this shit.
Jeez.
It's even worse for Lightning. Lightning doesn't get to roll because all of Lightning's stats are overlapped.
Ugh.
It's even worse for him. Yeah, I don't know. That game, I'm leaning towards dropping out of that game.
I can understand. It's unfortunate, but I can understand.
Yeah, I don't like dropping games, so I'm just not having fun.
It's the thing that, like, and hi, Ashen. I am kind of like, it's the thing of like, I feel better about Lightning's game than I do about Worm's game. No offense to Worm, but it's Traveler, and Traveler, I've had, you know, an okay experience with, but I also know it's not the greatest system. So that's why I'm kind of on eggshells about the game when it starts. But it's also the fact, like, you know, honestly, no offense to Lightning, but I'm like, it's still a commitment to join the game, and I just don't know how much I want to have that commitment nowadays.
I mean, the benefit is I don't believe this game is going to be very long.
That's the good thing, you know.
I think it's only going to level 6, I think is what Lightning said.
Okay.
Level 6 or 8, which is, honestly, the way Lightning levels is very short.
Yeah.
Lightning does like every 3 sessions or so.
Yeah. So that's not too long, and I think that's the another reason that I'm like, because I just feel like I don't want any big campaigns. I think I talked about it before. It's like, nowadays, if I'm in an off-stream game, it's because I really want to have fun in that game. Because if not, I can just do a stream game. Like, if I'm going to run something off-stream, it's to, like, you know, test the system, get a hold of something. Like, I could, you know, if I could find some people, I would run because, you know, I would thought about testing out something else, maybe a little larger. It's like a one-shot of, like, 4th edition, and then maybe doing, like, just an adventure in 4th edition to test out using it on Roll20. But I'd probably want to do it off-stream first, because, honestly, I have fucking no idea how to run it.
You've no idea how to run it. I have fucking no idea how to play 4th edition.
Yeah. I played in it years ago, so it's like I have a little bit of knowledge that way, but again, like, it's been so long, I'm like... It's the same thing, like... I need to remember Pathfinder, like, in Carrying Crown, honestly, to be ready to run it on stream. So that's a good reason for me to do stuff, but it's also like, I'd rather have content.
For all the bad that was Carrying Crown, it did at least remind me and you how to play Pathfinder.
Yeah. That I'll agree on.
Just the game. It's a time commitment that I could be using to hang out with my partner instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then playing Divinity 2.
Yeah, you know, it's been good to do Divinity 2, I think. It's like, as I said, I got a good chunk of the way into Chapter 2. That's not the end game.
Where we are now is about as far as I've ever made it in that game.
Okay. So we're kind of going beyond where you've been.
So everything beyond that, I have no idea what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah, I honestly sort of remember some stuff from Chapter 2, but there's a lot of, like... That's one of those ones you get at that point in time. You can wander a lot of places at that point in time and go to a lot of different directions. So it became like, I have no idea where we wander or what we do. You know?
Yeah.
It opens up the world a lot.
Yeah, I mean, once this is done and, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 actually fucking comes out, maybe we can do that on stream.
Yeah. Maybe about then I'll be done Pathfinder Wrath of Righteous.
That's what you think. Probably, because I don't know when. I think the Baldur's Gate 3 is not going to come out until, like, April of next year.
Honestly,
I think it's second quarter is when it's slated.
Honestly, I'm hoping going to be done that by the end of November at this point in time. I might just push to finish it. Like,
it's, from what I keep hearing, it's not fun.
Again, it's. I have very huge complaints, but it's sort of like the parts that I find fun, I find very fun is the problem. You know, and I think that's the issue, is that it's got this emotional ups and downs. It's sort of like, oh, this is really fun. I'm having a great time. Oh, it's just crushed it.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, speaking of Pathfinder, we did one of those.
We did. We had Buccaneers, and there was a party.
We had a party, and it was so much chaos.
No, it was interesting because, like, I did have a chance to chat with Joe, because apparently out of everybody we had, Joe had the least to do. And I did chat with him about it, and he's like, and I was like, you know, I could try to get some more stuff in the next stuff. And he's like, don't bother. I had a good time for what I did, and I was helpful for what I did, you know. That felt good.
It's kind of a shame that this party is very much for the people who have been there for the beginning of the game.
Yes.
Because Misty and what's Joe's character's name again?
Chester.
Misty and Chester don't have a lot to do with that party.
Yeah.
This is like Cell and Eric have the most to do, because they invited every fucking villain. Which has been hilarious, but questionable idea.
Look, I'm going to tell you, they've actually done something is, I'm probably going to drop the ghost from being an opponent of yours, because honestly, the nature of it and having the conversation where she technically blames Nat, and that can be a when Nat leaves, Nat problem off stream kind of thing.
Honestly, Nat can literally like probably just one shot that fucking ghost.
Maybe. Honestly, it's
like it's a ghost.
It's still technically like a 9th level sorcerer ghost, though.
Still a threat, but it's still a ghost versus a mage.
The thing is, I can just be like, whatever. I don't have to worry about it.
Handle off stream, right?
Like, you actually had an opportunity to get rid of Plug and Surge until Yakul spoke up.
That was never gonna happen. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Yeah. I assumed Revia and Yakul were never going to allow them to just go away and live their life.
I already designed them. They're like a CR18 at least.
Because they're definitely a post-campaign problem.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, I made them a problem that technically isn't really yours, but you keep pissing them off.
Hey, you know, the best part about that problem, not Misty's.
You know, I established some things that could be, like, their entire other own adventure for, like, these things, you know? Because I thought about, like, well, if you really want to deal with them, we can maybe figure out something, or we cannot, you know? And, it's sort of like I'm at the half thing, because, like, I put it together that, like, maybe not's better, but I can also be fine with figuring it out, too.
It's also the thing is, like, will it be fun?
I don't know. That's the question I have, because I'm like...
I'd have to know what they are to determine if I think it would be fun, and that'd be spoilers.
Yeah.
I know what one of them is. I'm pretty sure the Squid Lady's a mage.
Let me put it this way. One of them maybe has the blessings of the goddess Lamashtu.
Yeah, I mean, I figured. Like
actual blessings, which is kind of not a good thing to be fighting against, you know? So perhaps they become a different issue that's less shacklies and more like they're a problem created incidentally by you for post-game, where, like, maybe when Yakul becomes Hurricane King, it's a reason for, like, you know, out backstory that you maybe never get to, that are, like, you know, you're opposing, like, this force that you created in the world that you feel responsible of, you know? Sort of like accident releasing the Whispering Tyrant, you know, and trying to have to deal with that then, or some kind of shit.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if it'll be fun to fight. That's the problem. Like, but by the time we fight it, we would be, like, level 15.
Yeah. Well. Which is possible, but again, like, it's that weird thing of, like, I'm not sure. It's the thing is, like, when you invited them, I'm like, and when Revia started talking to them, I'm like, oh, holy shit, they might just take care of this issue, and I can just leave it as a side thing that never comes up again.
I don't know. I'm mixed on that whole encounter, but that's because I'm mixed on everything Yakul does.
But then Yakul was just like a total... He's really bad.
Yeah. Like, I mean... I don't know. There could still be a point to try and recover that shit, but
I mean, Yakul apparently doesn't understand sarcasm either.
Yakul's a dumbass. He has 6 intelligence.
Because the guy was like, you know, oh, we got some bad blood between us. You know, the sarcastic, like, you know, we did try to murder each other.
Yeah, you know, there was literally blood between 2 of you. You know, someone's blood was on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not Misty's problem. Misty doesn't know who they are.
Yeah. So we'll worry about it in the future.
Who knows? Misty's got her own problems to deal with.
Yeah.
When the party actually finally learned a small amount about her backstory. Through the words of a dwarf.
Well, again, like, you know...
Makes sense, because Missy doesn't like talking about it.
And you did establish that, like, you told me those two were part of the old party, so I'm like, they would know stuff. They could say things.
Landless Hearts... Lucian and Misty were an old adventuring party, basically.
Yeah.
They did like a 1 to 6 adventure, because I think Misty joined at like level 7 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like a whole ass adventure, which the party might learn about if they ask, but I honestly don't expect them to.
Mm-hmm.
Revia might. Yakul is too dumb, I think. But I like the party a lot.
And we established that there's something that has sabotaged things.
Oh no! It's almost like it's some kind of test.
Mm-hmm.
There's, a score you have to get at the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I think the party's been very fun.
Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting thing, and it's one of those things that is unlike the regatta. Mm-hmm. It is really a series of checks and stuff like that, or what possible sometimes like little combats or something. Because honestly, two of these situations, one of these situations you did avoid. The lady that you had Conkerbar and Chester distract.
Mm-hmm.
If not, she challenges one of you to a duel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because she's very like artistic in that, like a friendly duel kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that would have been Chester's problem. He's the duelist.
Yeah.
Or Revia. That's not my problem.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that I did get a chance to use my engineering stuff for a check. Because engineering checks are pretty rare.
Mm-hmm. And you passed with flying colors.
I felt I impressed the shark man. He's a werewolf, right?
He's the werewolf man, yeah. You did a good job. The werewolf guy, certainly, as I said, right now, it's not impossible for you to fail, to get, a very bad score, but it's very improbable.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. I think we're going to land somewhere, at okay. That's where I'm predicting we're going to land.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe good result is good right now. The best result is still possible.
Yeah, we could still get it. We'll see. Dice rolls are a thing.
Yeah.
Getting Yakul to keep his mouth shut, also a thing.
God, that's not going to happen.
No. He's a dumbass, but we all love him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was there anything on Thursday?
I did run my Thursday game. I delved a little bit into Cell's backstory. Because the backstory of Cell's character is he's a dude whose family line has been cursed by the Fae. And the curse is that every male in the family will die a horrible death by the age of 40. So Cell's character is trying to fix that. Which is very possible. I've set up ways for that to get fixed. So I had this Fae lady show up and be like, I could fix your curse, all sassily. And Cell didn't like that, so Cell started sassing her. So I just had her pull out this hourglass that, just has his character's name on it and is a physical representation of how much time that character has left before he dies. And Cell got that as a present. It's fair dicks, fun fact. So the party now has an hourglass counting down to the death of one of the player characters.
Good times.
Then they went and looked at a ruin, which I wasn't expecting to do so fast. But the theme of the thing about the world, because this is my personal world, is it's a bit like Galarian, where it's built on the back of a long gone ancient technological civilization.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically went into some cyberpunk ruins. They didn't speak or could read any of the language, so they just started pressing buttons. And sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't do anything. Sometimes they pushed the button to start a nuclear reactor. Luckily, nothing bad will come of that, honestly. Because they've also activated repair bots, so the facility will be maintained, I guess. But yeah, they're just cool. They're exploring cool technological ruins right now. And I think that's fun and interesting. Next session, turning on that reactor may have released something that was trapped in there. They're gonna have to deal with that.
It actually comes back to why I think you mentioning your own system here actually and of course, like lightning and building his own world and stuff like that. I just thought of a reason that like I don't like doing that anymore. It's so much work and like,
it's a lot of time, yeah.
And I don't mind just making my own version of something that already exists a lot of times.
I mean, Lightning and I have worked on the world he runs in for... We've worked on it for about 2 years. He's worked on it for longer. The world I run in is a single country the size of Belgium currently, and that's taken me like 4 months just to make.
I think that's why, like... If anybody that I watched last week during the Madness reunion, I had a very adverse reaction to suggestions of other stories in my world, and I realized that's why now. I don't actually want to build the world.
No, that's fair.
I like the bits of the world I use for the game I wrote, or a version of that kind of story. Yeah. So, like, skip ahead in time. I'm like, I don't want to do that. What? You know?
Building a world is like building a house. You have to build out everything under what is going to be played. You have to build all the overarching shit that'll happen.
That's why I like building like a single adventure kind of adventure pathy thing with this one snippet of this world just feels so much easier and better.
That's like why I like... I'm going to keep shilling it. Grim Hollow. Hey, it's an already done world. I can run whatever the fuck I want in it. I don't have to worry about any of the world building.
Yeah. Galarian is so much easier to do stuff, and that's why I'm like, Pathfinder, Galarian, great.
Yeah, easy. You know? Hey, let me throw this dart at this map. Okay, we're in, I don't know, Last Wall. Cool, I can run something there. There's a book about it.
Yeah. It definitely feels like that, you know, like... And I think that's one of those things is like, you know, people have different things about it. I think I've reached the age of my thing is like, I just don't feel like taking all that time to build my own world.
Oh, it's a lie.
It's you have to have that in you, and like I've made plenty of my own worlds in the past, and like I think it's like I haven't done a lot with any of them, you know, and some of them are just bad now, and like I don't feel like making another one.
It's like the idea for the world I made is basically like, what if a country sat on top of the ruins of Night City, like many thousands of years later? And they start digging up that tech. What kind of world would that be? And that's basically what I did.
It's not a bad idea. It's an interesting one.
That's what Pathfinder does. So like magic weapons are actually just tech artifacts in this world.
It's also like, you know, there were some like suggestions and talk about that, like, you know, it's talking about like that the world I created. I technically created 2 worlds, and guess what? Like honestly, like a little prequel. See a session of like different players, I can do that because guess what? I have enough of that little area where you're going to be like at the castle that gets teleported. Hey, I can just do that. You know, a prequel of like preparing for that war battle or something.
I think I like, as a player, I like when it's a pre-made world because I can be like, okay, we're in Ustalov. Let me go to Google. What's Ustalov like? Oh, it's like this? Okay, I'll make this kind of character.
I think that's the other thing of like, I'm going to say here, when I was making that Traveler character, I was like, I'm just going to be human. You know why? I don't want to know about the other alien races. I don't want to learn about all that right now. There's too much, you know, like...
Cella's built out a portion of Lightning's world. It's like the human lands and shit. And I'm like, man, I don't want to read this like 8-page Google Doc to know what the hell's up with this place. So I made a dude who died 30 years ago, so none of that's my problem.
It's just, even like, just, the worlds we use... They're always just like how much work you want to put in sometimes, and like there's fine work to do, but like again, it's sort of like there certainly was a lot of like giant holes in something like Children of Wrath. Dominaria, like they don't give you everything. Like I gotta tell you, you know how much information they give me on like the Northlands?
Nothing.
They give me fucking nothing. You know, they give me, like, there's this one area that's, like, got, like, the jut where you visited first. Yeah, people visit, they live there. That's it.
Because it's like the entire plan is told on little blurbs on magic cards.
And sometimes if we're lucky in like books or when they do the stories, you know?
Imagine getting books again. That'd be weird.
Hey, we got these random novelizations that give us tidbits of like stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely hard to build out your own world. But I mostly built out mine because I wanted standard fantasy world. Lightning's world ain't a standard fantasy world. I wanted a game I could run where I'm like, okay, your players, you go out in the forest and kill stuff. You can't do that.
Were we talking about Thursday right now? This was Thursday that led to this.
My Thursday game.
Was there a Friday before we get too distracted by this conversation?
Cells game. What the fuck did we do in Cells game? I think we. All right, we mostly just like dealt with the aftermath of killing a ghost. And we did a little bit of shopping, and then we made plans on where to go next. And we're going to another big city to talk to some people. Then we're gonna go hunt some monsters in the wilderness. Cause I can make things out of monster parts. That's a thing Cell gave me.
Ooh. Sounds
Oh yeah, another thing that happened on Thursday game. Lightning went into his family's decrepit manor, and they went in the basement, killed a bunch of awful shit, and found a literal pile of gold that a dragon would sit on. So basically, I've given them money to build the town with. Because it's part kingdom building.
Yeah, that makes sense then to give them stuff for that.
Yeah, I think we're going to use different rules that aren't the actual Kingmaker rules that were adapted for 5 because they're a little much. They're a bit much.
Kingmaker. You know what? We already talked about it, so that's why like the Paizo releases, they give their list of releases, but like we already talked about these topics, including like all the Kingmaker stuff came out.
Yeah.
I guess that's the one thing that I can talk about here is that I did do more Wrath of Righteous, because I talked about this a little bit here and there, but like there's more realizations I have about this game. The story's worse than Kingmaker.
Yep.
All the NPCs have worse stories than they told in Kingmaker. Like, I feel like, you know, you had a lot more personal stories with all these characters, even the ones you found, that it felt like your decisions and the things you said to them had more of an impact on them. I feel like I'm just around for the ride for, like, half of these people, and then, like, they give me options. They're like, do you want the good option or the evil option? Your choice! None of them really feel like there's middle grounds or anything like that.
This is my full side tangent for moral choices in video games and tabletop RPGs. Hey, when you give moral choices, don't make the good option like just the normal thing a person would do, and then don't make the evil option cartoonishly villainish. Because that's how most of these options go, usually.
The one character was like, should I accept horrible demon powers or should I resist them? Because it's a tiefling, you know, and we're in the abyss. And the tiefling's like, oh, I found like a vestige that's left over of my demon ancestor. You know, demon ancestor's like, hey, I can give you some of my powers so they live on. And I'm like, don't do that. But I'm like, also like, that's like the logical choice. Like, what?
I want to know why do these options exist in the campaign where you're literally meant to be lawful good?
Because they set it up that you can be any alignment.
Like, I mean, like, sure, I could see you're supposed to be lawful because, like, you can be lawful evil and still want to get rid of the demons, right?
You can work for like the Hell Knights and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Hell Knights. Well, they're not really actually in the actual adventure path.
But it makes sense that they could.
But you can be a Hell Knight going to deal with that because Cheliks don't like demons; they like fiends, or they like devils, not demons.
So again, it even though they're not in the original adventure path, including them there makes sense. Like, because I gotta be honest, like of all the characters, I have to say, like, honestly, I feel like the one with the most actual like character is the fucking Hell Knight because he's like I'm a military man. I'm here because, you know, Chelix doesn't want things getting worse at the fucking Whirlwood. And I'm like, that's a fine enough story for you being here and involved in my team. Wow.
Seriously, though? Feels a bit weird. It's weird to have that one there.
Because there's no redemption for her. There's no good option. There's either... The good option is you kill her.
I mean, yeah. Like, I think it's the consequence of, in the AP, you're just the champions of the crusade, and in the video game, you're like the one running it. And I feel like that's a big problem.
They wanted to make it Kingmaker, and Kingmaker doesn't fit with Wrath of the Righteous.
No. Because that's the thing, and more side tension, with some of the APs that are smaller. You have the Shalix Civil War adventure path. You're just like some dudes who are fighting in it.
Yeah.
You're the champions of it. You're not the leaders. Wrath of the Righteous, you're some crusaders in the army who become the champions of it. You're not the leaders of it. And these APs are not set up for you to be the leaders of it, because it doesn't work that way.
You know, like, certainly, like, Kingmaker, it fits to have, like, a battle thing. The thing is, you could cut out some of the stuff that they did in the story in Wrath of Righteous, and I think it would tone it back so much. Hey, guess what you do? Rather than, you know, oh, hey, I'm in charge of the entire crusade. You're a general in an army.
Yeah.
You still have to, like, build your army, recruit it, go on these battles. Hey, I'm doing the exact same thing that I did, and I'm taking a step back from being, like, the overlord of everything!
Yeah, it's just so many weird decisions. I don't understand it, but...
The alignment decision is what really gets me, because you can play any alignment. It's too much.
A chaotic evil person is not really going to want to deal with demons, to be honest.
It makes no sense, and the thing is, again, their NPC choices are just so bad. The characters aren't great. They're so out there and so ridiculous. Like, I can like them, but I can also sit back and say, like, what the fuck is this? Like, because again, like this week, guess what I had to do? I had to kill one of my NPCs because they were like, oh, you didn't have the right choices with me, so now because it's like the neutral evil one, and I'm like, now I'm siding with the demons, and you can't spare me. And I'm like, why not?
You didn't do the dialogue options right, nerd.
Yeah, and I'm like, and the thing is, like, I gotta be honest, like, they did establish that she had reasons to being neutral evil, you know? That's the problem, is like, I felt like the character could have had a redemption path. No, we're not going to include one. Or make it really difficult to do. Instead of, like, all the other characters where, like, you went on missions with their backstory one after another, and you could take them different directions. Oh, what? Character development over the thing? Instead of like, well, she disappeared for a while, she showed back up, and then she betrays you and you murder her.
It's too much video game.
It's like, I'm sorry, how is Kingmaker less video game when it's like, older and like has so many problems? But like, I'm sorry, the story, the NPCs, just so much better already.
Yeah, like, Wrath of the Righteous just sounds like it's too much video game, not enough Pathfinder.
It's because I think they wanted it to be Kingmaker, and Wrath of the Righteous isn't Kingmaker, and I think that's the problem.
They could have... There are other APs that could have been used that are basically kind of similar to Kingmaker in a lot of ways.
Again, like, I think it's just they try to go for things that are popular and feel like they have an epic scope. Like Kingmaker, you're building a kingdom. That's an epic scope. Wrath of the Righteous, you're leading an army, a crusade against demons. Yeah. Some of them aren't nearly as epic. I'm gonna say, like, something like Carrying Crown, you're fucking nothing epic compared to that. You're just like you're some
dudes dealing with stuff.
Yeah, you're some dudes that run into like, oh hey, this cult that pissed us off is trying to do something bad. I guess we should stop them since they pissed us off.
This is just me. I prefer the smaller stories in Pathfinder personally. Like Skulls and Shackles. That's a pretty small story comparatively to like some of the other shit.
I think the stories that feel like they naturally ramp up.
Yeah.
Like Skulls and Shackles. It has taken 4 adventures for you to get to the place where you're running an island and joining the Pirate Council. But like they spread it out enough that it feels like things have happened and naturally things have built to this point in time.
Yeah, the campaign's also taken place over almost a year as well.
Yeah, so it's sort of like you've been pirates now for like nearly a year and like gone on all these adventures and stuff and things like, had opportunities and been smart and taken these opportunities and like, yeah, maybe people are like, oh, they're getting pretty quick this direction. But I feel like it's one of those things that they don't really say particular words, but I used when Yakul talked to the Master of Gales to establish something that honestly makes sense logically. I just, added a little bit to the way they do things with the Pirate Council and stuff and made it make sense as to why you're there a little quicker. And I liked actually being able to do that. Establishing that, maybe the Master of Gales stepped down because he's like, we need some new blood in the council. And then, like, we'll see if someone wins it. And seeing you folks win it, and I'm like, and he's like, this could work. Yeah, I'll give him an opportunity, a chance. I like that I was able to say that and like establish that, and that it made a lot of this like establishment make more sense than they like kind of just kind of happens a lot more in the actual adventure path, without these words. But and I think that's the thing is like it just harkens back to like there's too much that just fucking happens in the Wrath of Righteous video game.
Yeah.
We have fucking no reason to go the Abyss.
No. Well, the reason they give you in the game is bad, but in the AP you do go there because you're gonna go strike at the heart of the cult that's causing it.
That's a good reason. That would be a really good reason. We're here because I think there's some stupid storyline of like this evil lady that works for a demon lord instilled some like demonic essence which awakened mythical abilities on me, and I've changed them to be more angelic or something, though because she found that very interesting because it was just meant to wake up. It's like a fraction of it was like a like instilled some power that's from like a dead demon lord, because they do establish that there's ways to kill demon lords. If like you kill one and then you kill it within a certain period of time a second time, it doesn't come back. So you have to like kill the demon lord twice, which is no easy feat in the first place. Anyway, yeah. So using fractures of that power, they were experimenting with it. They gave your character like a fraction of that power, which it's like, is this gonna make you have demon powers? Oh, hey, to awaken just some kind of weird mythical abilities. Maybe like because I guess like there's a path for ascending to godhood in this game or something, and I'm like, why? I like looking at some of the stuff, and it's too much. It's too ridiculously overpowered and too ridiculously like epic. I'm sorry. There's ways. Does it get this fucking crazy in the original adventure path?
Not really.
No. So I'm feeling like it's so much crazy. The side characters kind of like some of them on the paper look interesting, but they're like backstory stuff and making them feel like actual characters beyond the notes they start out with doesn't really work ever. Evil serial killer lady's always evil serial killer lady no matter what the choices you make. Oh well, fuck you then. And like again, it's just like the gamified aspects sometimes of like some of the encounters and stuff too are just they feel so stupid. There's so many encounters that I've had that I had to like. I shouldn't have to redo as many encounters as I've had to redo. Because what it is I've got to then like reload it, and then just cast all the buff spells in the world. And then when you have all the buff spells in the world, sure, it makes it easy, but you're supposed to kind of manage those throughout the day and stuff, and like cast those as you need for like combats and things like that. I never get that feeling, and I think that's just an issue. I don't know. It's the weird thing that I say, like, when I take it back is like, if I remove the last chapter of Kingmaker, I think I would have called Kingmaker a fine game. Because, like, as much as the gamified aspects were there, and things like the dice weight were there, the story was a lot better. The story was actually pretty engaging into the last chapter. And the other characters you work with feel great to work with. They have these very interesting stories that you go along, and, like, as making the good choices I felt like I could have influence on all the characters, even the eviler characters. Like, I can at least have them, like, you know, even if I don't have them change their ways, at least I can have them be, like, better to their friends and stuff, or, like, things like that, you know, like, maybe I make them feel better about their own pasts, which is something you can do to evil characters. They can have their own internal redemption arcs for their, like, characters. So, anyway, I'm getting very heated about this now, because, like, it's like, the stuff I'm feeling is lacking is huge, unfortunately. I mean, I still like the actual decent Pathfinder aspect of it, where you have nice Pathfinder combats that make sense and cast really neat spells and have a fun time. And, you know, I've now, at least on stream, I think I did it, like, I've at least twice critical with a Racking Ray, which is like a strength and a dexterity penalty spell that's a ranged touch, and oh boy, that's really fun to do. Not gonna lie. Those are not 20s you want to have. Anyway, I think that's it for today.
Yeah, feels like it.
So, thank you for joining me, Momo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get going. We're gonna get going. Schedule for the week. Expect me to start Resident Evil 7 on Monday, Halloween. I'll do that leading into November. So I'll finish it up in November. I will be doing, of course, more Wrath of Righteous. I do still want to finish that. It hasn't gotten me bad enough I don't want to finish it, is what I'm going to say. As much as I have these complaints, again, like, as I say, the fun aspects of it are pretty damn fun, you know? Like, when they give me just a lot of, like, hey, give me 4 combats in a row that feel challenging but not overly challenging. Wow, you mean, like, normal Pathfinder, where I feel like I've used my resources usefully and I can go through these combats and they're not bullshit? Wow, that feels good, like I'm actually playing the game, or something like Neverwinter Nights. Anyway, and then I got some scheduled things for, you know, November. So expect those. And then that's it. And expect Buccaneers next Wednesday for Party Part 2. This show next Saturday, and that's the big Tabletop stuff on the agenda right now. So until those times, farewell, everybody. Bye.
Bye.